Self-love is the most radical form of activism because from it, all else flows. Here's the truth. Many of us weren't raised to love ourselves. Instead, we were taught to fit in, to perform, to prove. And so, the journey of self-love is one of unlearning, peeling back layers, and finally saying yes to who we are, imperfections and all. Let me be real with you, it ain't easy. But when you wake up to the essence of who you are, full acceptance brings a joy that is indescribable. Self-love in action, it shows up everywhere. The work we choose, the people we date, the food we eat, the boundaries we set. That's what this series is all about. Stories, tools, and reflections to remind you that self-love isn't selfish, it's sacred. I'm Nadine McNeil, Universal Empress, transforming lives one breath at a time. I cannot wait for you to dive in. Welcome back to the podcast series Self-Love is a Practice. Today we're going to be talking about self-love and self-worth. Now, I want to distinguish between self-worth and self-esteem. Self-esteem refers to how much you like and value yourself based on external factors like people giving you praise, like things like evaluations from work, etc. Whereas self-worth is how you feel about yourself internally. Now, here's the thing. How you feel about yourself will show up in how you present yourself to others. Now, naturally, we do like to receive praise, even those of us who don't. But how others feel about us is really none of our business. What we want to be paying attention to is how we are feeling about ourselves. When I'm talking about self-worth is an intrinsic sense of being good enough, regardless of how others may feel about you. It has nothing to do with external validation nor your achievement. Now, here's the thing. External validations will, of course, have an impact on you. This is where things get really juicy. If your self-esteem is based entirely on external validation, which is what happens a lot in the world we live in, when we look at something like social media, this can lead you down a rabbit hole of people-pleasing and constantly seeking approval. It is one of the dangers in the world in which we live in. It takes a lot of work for us to say we don't care what other people think. It really does. I'm a Leo. I'm a very outward person. I'm constantly showing up in front of hundreds and thousands of people. And naturally, I want to be sure, I want to know, or I want to feel that the work I'm doing is connecting to people, that the desired intention I set for myself and others is in fact happening. Again, but if we're relying solely on self-esteem, what is going to happen is when we don't get this feedback from others, we start to second guess ourselves, we start to feel disconnected, and we stop trusting ourselves. Self-worth is an inner foundation. True self-worth comes from within. It is grounded in who you are, not what others think you to be. It's about doing the deep inner work that we're doing as a part of this podcast series. It's about confronting those shadow aspects of yourself, the parts that you would love to hide or reject. Loving the imperfect parts of yourself is really what self-love is about. I cannot say this enough. Self-love means developing a loving relationship with those parts of yourself, those dark parts, those messy parts, those not so pretty parts. It's through embracing and loving these less perfect parts of ourselves that we can begin to love all of who we are. And it's what is going to stoke the internal muscle of your self-worth. And this is essentially what transformation is about. When you shift energetically, the world around you will begin to respond. And I want to say something here. This is a bit of a bonus. Self-love and transformation. I once read something about transformation that really shifted the impact and meaning of that word for me. We have a tendency to think that, the butterfly is the transformation. The butterfly represents the manifestation or the femifestation of your transformation. The transformation itself is the process. It's going from that hairy little not so attractive caterpillar bursting out of your skins, transforming yourself into something so much greater and so much more beautiful than you could ever have possibly imagined. So on the journey of self-love, how you view yourself, how you see yourself, your self-worth is super, super important. It's important from the boardroom to the bedroom. It's important in how you show up in every relationship, every negotiation in your life. I remember years ago, a friend of mine said something to me, and it took me quite some time to really appreciate the meaning of what she was saying. And she says, it's not what you're worth, it's what you negotiate. I'm going to repeat that for impact. It's not what you're worth, it's what you negotiate. And you're only able to negotiate to the extent that you believe yourself worthy. Now, if you do not believe that you are worthy of a certain figure, you're incapable. And I don't mean that monetarily. At any level, if you do not see yourself to be worthy, then you cannot negotiate. It's what has some of us, and I'm going to use a monetary analogy here because it's something that we can relate to. If you cannot embody $25,000 a job, then you're not going to be able to attract that. So this is why the inner work of self-worth is your self-work. The most powerful act of self-love is to embrace your imperfections, for in that embrace, the world gets to see who you truly are. And so it is. I am Nadine McNeil, Universal Empress, transforming lives one breath at a time. Namaste.